Alright, what's going on everybody, it's Liam here and welcome to today's video on the channel. And in today's video I have a commentary for y'all, and I have a different kind of video for y'all. It is a test run video, obviously talking about, the new damage intersection change and, kind of the meta in PvP that things are probably going to be shifting in. This is week 1 as of the time I'm recording this video. I will be covering week 2, obviously when that drops in a couple of days next week, so be on the lookout for that. But week 1, I've took the luxury of testing a couple of things on the Storm. A lot of players know that Storm got buffed, and it's not just Storm, it's also Fire and Myth, but people really hate Storm and they exaggerate Storm, right? So players will always make it about Storm, essentially. And, as somebody who mains Storm and, can look at things pretty objectively, I wanted Storm to be better, before this update, right? You did not do any damage in the live realm build of, PvP. The best way to put that, as the devs put it, was Storm was mitigating damage just fine in live realm, but they were not outputting enough damage as the devs wanted to. So something did need to be done objectively, and that's what we're seeing here in Test Realm. I just kind of wanted to give y'all some context on why this change is coming. And I'm not going to sit here and lie and act like, it's not a massive buff to Storm. I obviously want the game to be balanced. I love Storm. I'm a bit biased towards it, obviously. But I don't want the game to be completely broken like it has been from Season 1 to 4 with Death, Ice, and Life ruling the entire meta. And it's kind of a tough spot we're in right now. I'm going to talk about solutions before, I get into anything else. But the devs they have a hard spot to put Storm in right now. I think for the most part, they've honestly balanced the gear pretty well. I will be talking about why later on in the video, but I'll be covering the buffs and the nerfs right away here. So again, the damage intersection got, moved up, removed, or audited. I'm not really sure what Rapbeard wants to call that, but basically I get the full damage value now. And what this does is it lets Stormfire and Myth have, an even chance against high resist schools like Ice, balance maybe, life maybe, right? Stuff like that, right? Because in live realm, your damage was intersected very low, so the hitting schools could not run high damage because they would have low resist, and resist was king. And it turns out resist was just too good for, again, the defensive schools, objectively speaking. So this was raised to help fight resist, right? So now, in a Storm versus Ice example, the Ice will have about 35% more resist than the Storm, but now the Storm will have about 30% more damage to compensate with that, right? In live realm, it was essentially like the Storm had, I think, I forget what the numbers were, like 10 resist, and the Ice had 30 more resist, so there's like a 20% power gap there in the Ice's favor. But now what this does here is it actually scales, proportionally speaking, a bit better, because that was the issue with live realm. I'm not saying the system is perfect, I'm saying this was a solution that devs are trying, right? Players complained about the very minor resist change that happened a couple months ago or a month ago. So their next solution was to look at damage, the stat in general, and I'll offer my 2 cents on that a bit later. But that is the massive buff everybody is talking about. Another thing I'm going to bring up is the new Cup of Tea spell, which is the new spell from Novus, obviously. Really good card, honestly. Very good utility, very good DPP, and it sets up your Jhin immediately. I was asking for this for, some time now, like a lower pip utility card to set up a Jhin Gambit, right? For each school's school identity's sake, pretty cool. Very happy to see that in the game, but that is really the only 2 buffs Storm got. It got, a nice little cup of tea, and it got a very big deal. Again, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. The damage buff is a very, very big deal. I could sugarcoat it, obviously, because I like Storm, but I'm not going to do that because I actually, am objective and I care about the state of the game. And now the nerfs. So Storm got 2 buffs, objectively speaking, and it also got 5.5 nerfs in a way, I'll say. So TC Wild Bolt is banned, right? TC Leviathan is banned. TC Owl is banned. TC Oni No Plague, and TC Triton, right? So they banned basically like 80% of Storm's library in the TC as of right now. All you really have in TC is cards like Kraken, you know, Dudaga, Stormlord TC, maybe a Lord Squall, right, for a minion killer, stuff like that, and obviously the Beetle TC, which is pretty rare. KingsIsle did this obviously to compensate for Storm having a lot more damage now. They didn't want it to go, you know, off the wall, off the charts, essentially, right? I'll probably be posting some images up on screen right now of some testing I've done on Test Realm, various Storm hits, right, with buffs, without a buff, with multiple buffs. I'll have that up on screen right now for y'all to look at, just to get a bit more of an idea on how it is in Test Realm, right? In Live Realm, most of these numbers were scaled down about 30%, right? And you can see that because you get about 30% more damage increase here, roughly 30 to 40% damage increase, I would say. So you can kind of see it, again, scaling to try and compete with, you know, how dominant Resist was in Live Realm. And another nerf I talked to Rapbeard about in the DM is essentially now with Storm not being able to pack hits inside, they have to pack in a main deck, right? And you can't run a very small deck to, you know, pull everything you need on a Storm as easily. Now you'll have to run a bigger deck, which means, objectively speaking, you will deck fail more. You'll have a harder time cycling, right? Stuff like that. And they kind of consider this a nerf in the way Rapbeard worded it is something had to give for Storm. They couldn't just give it all this and, you know, not take away the TC, not make the deck the deck worse, stuff like that. So KingsIsle is nerfing Storm, you know, and overall, my opinion, you'll see at the end of the video here, it's actually not where y'all might think it is, but these are the nerfs, right? Is the deck is going to be harder to work on a Storm Wizard, and you lost 5 of the TC that players spammed and loved on a Storm, right? All for the buff of damage and all for the buff of having a new utility card, essentially. Now, a lot of players really don't like, you know, how Storm is right now. Myself included to an extent, actually. I know this might be kind of surprised. I'm happy. I'm very, 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 very happy that my school identity is restored. And the fact that I have, like, the most crit, the most damage that is usable, you know, the higher pierce than freaking life, finally. Oh my god, that was horrible in Live Realm. And overall, I'm really happy to see that, you know, I'm actually putting out big numbers on a Storm, because again, that's why we make a Storm in the first place. I want to see my numbers do big. I don't want to see my Rusalka do 100 more damage than an A-Bomb, right, when I don't get any utility on my Rusalka, and A-Bomb is one less pip, for example, right? So what a lot of players are saying is they would really like to see, you know, a little bit more nerfs to Storm. And honestly, I've been, you know, sitting here for 30 minutes trying to make this video, and I do think that, honestly, Storm, I think it might need a bit of a nerf, but my issue is right now, I'm really sitting here, I'm thinking objectively, and I can't think of a way to nerf Storm. I just can't. The community is suggesting to ban Elf or make Elf less viable or less spammable on a Storm. And I can kind of agree with that, honestly, guys. You know, having an Elf or 2 on a Storm is incredibly powerful, and the new raid pet giving 3 is absolutely insane, right? I think Storm should maybe get 1 Elf maximum. You see this with the Tingling Poison item card here. You won't pull it all the time like you will with 3 with the Elf pet, right? It's just a one and done thing. If your opponent outplays that, they don't have to worry about it for the rest of the game. So I really would like to see all Elf pets be restricted to 1 copy, or at the very least, you know, 2, potentially. I think 3 was a little bit too overboard, in my opinion. I know a lot of players, you know, they want to farm that raid pet and they want to get it. It feels rewarding to get, but, you know, it kind of feels crappy just getting spam elfed by a Storm Wizard, in general, I kind of feel like, you know. And the next thing I'm going to bring up is the Water Elemental. I am aware that KingsIsle is trying to audit the Water Elemental. I agree, this card is stupid. Same thing with Wild Bolt, you know? Same thing with Wild Bolt. these cards were just way too good, and they did not follow the school identity of Storm. You could argue Bolt more than the minion, but the minion has no business being this effective. 700 health for 3 pips, taunts all the time, buffs, cleanses, bubbles, shields to every school. It's absolutely insane, right? So I would suggest also either no PvPing the water elemental or just getting an audit in right away for minions, along with the elf change of bringing elf down to 1 copy like the Tingling Poison, or 2 copies with, obviously the OG Storm Elf, and nerfing the Nullity Dragon, Nullity Storm Pet. Sorry. Like I said, I've been thinking here, how to nerf Storm. I've been really thinking about it. When you actually dive into the math and understand the math, you can kind of see why the devs did it this way. I'm not saying it's a perfect system. I do think it's I think it's due of some very minor nerfs. I don't think there should be any big nerfs to Storm. You know what I mean? Right now, because again, you don't want to go back to Live Realm where Storm it's not doing damage, right? I made a Storm Wizard to do damage, but I'm not doing damage on Live Realm, right? You don't want to backtrack and go back to that place if you're King's Isle right now, right? You want to keep the ball rolling and going forward. What I will say, looking at the numbers earlier on in the video and when I was doing the testing, like I said, it is nice, considering you have no utility on your cards except for Kraken. You have literally 1 card that is situational, right? It is nice doing that much damage, but I think you have just a little bit too much damage. I'm not asking you to take away like 30 damage again, going back to tickling people in Live Realm King's Isle. I just think we have like a little bit too much. So I don't know if y'all could like decrease that a bit, or put an intersection in, like, I don't know, maybe somewhere around 170, right? Because truth be told, I did some testing on my Ice and Life as well, not just Storm, again, because I like to give some actual objective feedback. Ice and Life, they seem to be doing, about the same as they were doing in Live Realm, just a little bit more. And honestly, I'm fine with that if that means the 3 hitting schools, are doing more like as they should be, right? I'm fine with that. But I just really think Storm is doing a little bit too much. So maybe I would leave the intersection for the lower damage schools, like just don't put 1 in there. But maybe you could add a damage intersection around 170 damage potentially. I don't know about 160, because you still kind of need to like have that balanced correlation between the resist, like 30% more resist or 30% more damage, right? So maybe like, I don't know, 175, 180 maybe, because I think getting like 190 damage on a Storm is a bit mental right now. I am missing like a lot of pieces of gear here. I think I can get actually 200 damage with this build, which I think is just too much. So the 3 nerfs I would advise for Storm is, again, bringing Elf down to 1 or 2 copies, banning Water Elemental, and either taking their damage down a bit on, some of the pieces of gear, or putting a damage intersection in roughly around the 170 to the 180 range. I would say 175 or 180 if I was King's Isle, right? Because at that point, like, you have the 30% more damage compared to the defensive schools who have 30% more resist, 20 to 30%, right? At that point, you have your damage. You don't need any more. At that point, I think it makes sense to go and invest in some other stats. But yeah, overall, I think I gotta agree that I think Storm is a little bit too good right now, and I feel so sad because it's my school. I love it, man. I love it so much, but I think it's just a little bit too good right now. I think you're doing a little bit too much damage. Even though that's your whole school identity, you give up all utility to do damage. I think it's just doing a little bit too much. Overall, though, King's Isle, I'm pretty happy with how you balance the gear, right? Objectively speaking, if you want to run the new gear, you have the same HP as Live Realm Motorist, right? So I'll have like 8.5 to 8.7k with Glass Cannon Storm. Motorist Storm is like 9.3, but you give up a lot of stats compared to the Glass one. So yeah, honestly, King's Isle did a really good job with this update. I just think there's a couple more things to be looked at on the Storm School. You know, I imagine there'll be like a lot of people being like, you know, watching 2 minutes into the video and being like, oh, Liam, you love a storm. How could you ever want a storm nerf? And like, just still this stay hating. But I really think, you know, I need to make this video. You know, I needed to be responsible. And you know, most importantly, objective with my feedback here. And again, it pains me to say, you know, I want a nerf storm after just buffing it. But I don't know, man. It's just weird because I think players complain about Storm. Like, players who complain about Storm in Live Realm are just bad at the game, right? Kind of the same thing with Myth, right? If you complain about Storm and Myth, it's because you messed up and they punished you, right? Those are the two most punishing schools to go against, and like just in general in the game right now. So it's all their fault, and they always cry about that, right? Players don't want to be responsible for their own actions at the end of the day, and they want to take the easy way out, essentially, right? So there is some truth to it, as in, like, you know, Storm just, you know, being a good school if you play well and you punish your opponent. And I'm happy that the stats now are a lot more balanced. I'm going to consider this like phase 2 of the gear audit. Phase 1 was horrible. Like, that was like a 4 out of 10. This, I would say, is a bit more towards a 7.5, 8 out of 10, I would say, in my opinion. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. I'm really curious to see what you guys think about this. I know y'all probably didn't expect me to, you know, agree with this nerf storm system here. I just, again, I'm advising King Salad to do very minor nerfs, nothing too big, right? You don't want to take away that school identity of doing damage, but it's just a little bit too much right now, right? For example, I think a double buff for Solka, I could be wrong here. It's been a little bit since I did the testing, but it's like, what, 6.5 or 7k, right? As a glass storm, I would expect that to do, I mean, maybe 6k with 2 buffs. You know, I think that's fair. Not like 6.5, 7k. I think that's a bit too much. I think about, you know, just 6k with 2 buffs is a bit better, in my opinion, right? And if they don't want Storm to have that much damage, another solution they could do is just give it, you know, more accuracy, right? So you don't have to run Sniper, obviously, right? Or they could give us resist back for losing some damage, right? Stuff like that. Or, you know, more pips, right? Or more health if you want to take away our damage, right? There is ways to balance it better, but I think that's really all I have to say about it, guys. I don't know, man. I'm really curious to see how this video performs. Kind of took a 180 at the end. I know y'all are probably kind of surprised, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to read the feedback in the comments below. What do you guys think? Again, it's test realm, so be sure to get your opinion heard and out there, you know, on Twitter, in the comment section here, on my videos, other content creators' videos as well. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think about it in the comments below, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thank you guys for being here, and as always, take care, guys.